Hi, it's Matthew Porter with the Drafthouse Diary for Thursday, November 10th, 2022. If you've seen the last half a dozen or so Drafthouse Diaries, you know that I've seen a lot of horror movies recently. I was hitting those really hard all through October and into November, and I enjoyed those a lot, enjoyed most of them. But I decided it was time for a change of pace. And that's why I decided, before it leaves theaters, I would see Ticket to Paradise, starring George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And I like romantic comedies. This is not unexplored territory for me. I am an unashamed fan of Kate and Leopold. I have a cannot miss annual appointment to watch The Holiday during December. So I was prepared to enjoy this. Why not see a movie that features a beautiful location and beautiful people in it? I wish I enjoyed this movie more. In the end, this was a movie. What this movie was about was George Clooney and Julia Roberts getting to make a movie together. That seemed to be the only real reason for it to exist. And that might be plenty for lots of people to enjoy this movie. But it didn't live up to its setup. It didn't live up to its potential. It's a great formula that people who once were in love and now they haven't been in love and something brings them together and they realize that they love each other after all and they always have, or they can again, something like that. And that's what this movie kind of sets up. The premise is that Clooney and Roberts, they play a couple who were married for 6 years, 25 years ago, and since then have been distant at best, enemies at worst. The only thing they have in common is their daughter, who they both love tremendously. And she's just graduated and has gone for a summer to Bali before she starts her great new job back in Chicago. But while she's in Bali, she falls in love with a terrific guy who's presented as practically perfect. But her parents think this is terrible. She can't get married and stay in Bali. She's supposed to come back and take this tremendous job. And they team up to prevent this wedding, to keep this from happening, to bring their daughter to her senses. Of course, you know this formula. That's not what happens. The daughter and the daughter's situation teaches them what it means to be in love, what it means to devote your life to something, to know that something is right. And slowly, well, I shouldn't say slowly, I should say eventually, the Julia Roberts and George Clooney characters start to realize that about themselves. They start to remember why it was that they fell in love. That happens very late. It happens very uncertainly. Maybe you might consider that to be more realistic than a sudden revelation that, of course, we're still in love. But it never gets to a point that's particularly satisfying. And one of the things that can make this sort of formula work, where people who were in love no longer are, is if the banter is very well written, very well executed, really sharp. And in this, it wasn't. For most of the movie, Roberts and Clooney are portraying really nasty enemies, and the scenes are just nasty and unpleasant to watch. And maybe there's some wit in some of their sharp-tongued dialogue, but not enough. It really is unpleasant to watch some of those scenes. So the scenes in which they do recognize how fond they are of each other, those are much more welcome, but they seem to be very abrupt, and they don't make up for how unpleasant some of the other parts of the movie were. As with a lot of movies, there was another movie inside this that I would have preferred to watch. I would have been interested in more of the story of their daughter and her new fiance and their family and her challenges in becoming part of this big extended family in her new home. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And we did get some of that. We get to meet her family, a lot of interesting characters, a lot of fun scenes, a lot of culture clash humor. That was done pretty well. But there wasn't enough of that, and instead there was just too much of Clooney and Roberts being mean. So, glad to have given it a try. Not a movie I really enjoyed. I give it 1 star on that 0 to 4 scale. And I look forward to more from George Clooney and Julia Roberts. I just hope that it's better than this. Other parts of the visit. The pre-show on this visit, this was clearly a generic off-the-shelf pre-show. It had nothing to do really with the movie I was about to see. But it was a particularly fun off-the-shelf pre-show. A lot of 80s new wave music videos, both American and otherwise. Some French music, some German music, new wave and techno. Several clips from what looked like a Japanese giant robot versus kaiju movie, but we were seeing it with English subtitles and a German dub, which just made it more surreal and more enjoyable, if you ask me. So a strange pre-show, a random pre-show, but I enjoyed it. For food, I got the pepperoni pizza. Last week when I saw something in the dirt, I got the carnivore pizza, which I had had before. This time I got the pepperoni pizza. And the pepperoni pizza is very good. It's the same idea. It's a generously sized personal pizza, but with only the pepperoni on it and not so much other meat. Everything got a little crisper, a little drier, a little more cracker-like, and still very flavorful. They use good cheese. They use good pepperoni. The crust is good. So I recommend the pizza, and depending on what you're interested in that visit, the pepperoni is just as good as the carnivore pizza. The staff, I had minimal interaction with the staff, but I've never had a problem with the staff there. They're always friendly, always efficient, and that, of course, held for this visit as well. Once again, even though the movie wasn't great, a visit to a good movie theater is still a good time, so I'm glad I went. Well, thank you for joining me for this Drafthouse Diary. If you enjoyed this, please do click like down below because it helps others find it. If you want to see more of these, click subscribe because I will be back with more reviews of Alamo Drafthouse movies, food, pre-shows, the whole experience. And until then, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.